Right, hello everybody. It's the top of the hour. It's time to get started. Let's get started with the Virginia Online Global Program. Today's webinar, Going Global with Website Localization and Online Marketing. First of all, we want to thank you for joining us wherever you may be in the great state and the great Commonwealth of Virginia, from Bristol and Roanoke to Richmond and Norfolk, and of course, of those of you up in Arlington and Alexandria. Do know you are very welcome. Thank you for joining us. Also, I'd like to say a good day to those who are listening to the recorded version, because we know this webinar has legs. It gets recorded and distributed widely. So those of you who are listening afterwards on demand, welcome. To those of you who are members of the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And those of you who are Virginian international companies seeking to grow and expand internationally using website localization, international online marketing, thank you for joining us. We have a great webinar planned for you today. My name is John Worthington. I am the CEO here at IBT Online, and I'm your host here today. I have the huge pleasure of introducing this webinar and introducing my co-presenters. We are passionate about our Go Global webinar series. It's all about knowledge and understanding in this fast-moving and ever-changing online and international world. There's always so much to learn and so much to keep up to date with. And the wonderful example of the Virginia Online Global Program, so that is going global with websites that are localized and international online marketing, it really is a good example of how this has all evolved and what we have to learn to keep abreast of today's online challenges. Now, before we get started, we always do a little bit of housekeeping so that you know what to expect. For returnees, people who are listening for the second and even third time, well, you know the drill. This webinar is one of a series. It's one of a Go Global webinar series. We've been at this for over 3 years. Our series is all about helping companies grow their sales, grow their brands, and grow their businesses, and to do that globally. The webinar, over 3 years old, has got a rich catalog of recorded webinars. If you go to our website, that is www.ibt.onl/resources, you'll find many webinars, and you can see some examples of some of the assets on the left-hand side of your screen there. Also, there are many webinars which have been planned for the future. So in the same /resources webinars, you'll find planned webinars covering many subjects related to this, going international and doing so online. This webinar will be approximately 45 minutes, briefly introduced by myself before I hand over to our co-presenters. There will be time for questions at the end. So you see your box that says questions, that's second or third from the bottom, depending on your screen. Please click that arrow, drop that down and send us a few questions. We will answer that at the end. There is also a chat box, so please use it. And do know at the end of this webinar, there will be a brief survey, so we would welcome your feedback. That helps us do better in the future. And finally, please do know that we will be sending you a copy of the recording and slide deck on Friday. It will arrive in your inbox, your email inbox, so no need to write anything down. You will get a full slide deck at the end of the week. So please sit back, have some morning coffee, enjoy yourself as we get into the program. So let me begin the program by introducing my 3 co-presenters, who I thank very much indeed for joining us today. In the center of your screen, you have Paul Grossman. Paul serves the Commonwealth of Virginia as the Vice President of International Trade for the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. That's the VEDP. And in this capacity, Paul is responsible for developing and implementing the Commonwealth's international strategy for the promotion of Virginia products and services to markets around the world via export sales. Paul has over 30 years of international business and experience, and his responsibilities include directing U.S. states' international business recruitment programs and managing county economic development programs. A more experienced pair of hands is hard to find, and Paul leads the VEDP in its mission to increase the number of Virginian companies selling overseas and their volume of international business year after year. On the left-hand side, we have Susanna. Susanna is IBT Online's Chief Content Officer. and so is responsible for all of our digital media and multi-channel publications. Susanna brings together and curates a huge wealth of international online research and knowledge that is then made available to you on our website and through our social media channels. So do go check out the IBT Online websites, look at the white papers, ebooks, infograms, videos, and of course the webinars. They're all dedicated to helping you grow your exports, grow your sales, your brands and businesses online and globally. And that is the example of what we're going to be discussing today. Susanna has spent her career working for businesses internationally, that is in the US, that was over in New York, as well as in France and Germany. Susanna speaks German, Dutch, French, and English, and she will be speaking English today. On the right of your screen, we have Jared. Jared Grossman is IBT Online's Richmond-based Virginia Online Global Program Expert. Jared has an international background, having traveled widely in the world and earned his master's in international business in the UK, and is, of course, a web-savvy go-to online guru. Jared works for Virginian companies that are looking to increase their international presence by understanding their challenges, their routes to market, and the international business objectives. Jared is then able to steer each company towards the appropriate online service solution that IBT Online offers. Jared is an expert in the international online world. So Jared aligns the objectives of IBT Online with those of the VEDP, that is helping Virginian companies to ensure that we are all focused singularly on increasing the number of Virginian companies selling overseas and the volume of international business, and that year after year. 2 words on IBT Online. IBT is a privately held company, as well as being a European company. IBT stands for International Business and Technologies Online. We've been proud to be in business since 2002, so that's 16 years, and we have indeed come a long way, and we're very, very proud to say so have our clients. It is indeed our clients that have enabled IBT to grow and expand internationally. We are proud of our international trade award programs we've won, and we have delivered for over 400 companies online globally and over 1,000 online global programs. So that's enough of that. Let me hand over to Paul and say thank you very much indeed, Paul, for welcome Paul to this to the platform, so that you can introduce the VEDP. Thank you again, Paul, and I'm handing over.
Well, thank you, John, for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be part of this webinar today. I'm not familiar with all of the folks who are joining us, so let me just make some overarching comments, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers toward the end. But for those of you who are not familiar with VEDP, as John indicated, our job is to increase your exports, talking about Virginia companies selling their products or their services overseas. We have a variety of programs. Many folks are familiar with our valet program. We have a program specifically geared for defense companies. We allow companies to travel with us on trade missions. We fund companies' participation in trade shows. We do an extensive amount of international market research. We have consultants in over 75 different countries who can identify business opportunities and set one-on-one meetings for Virginia exporters. So we're particularly pleased to be part of this webinar. We have a consortium of about 24 trade partners that cover everything a Virginia company might need to go international, from this digital localization help to accounting to legal work to translation. For those of you who are not familiar with VEDP, I encourage you to go to our website. You can see there in the upper left-hand corner, exportvirginia.org. You can find more about us, our programs, and our trade partners. So I'll turn it back over to, I think, Susanna, who will begin the webinar for us.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. And it's a real pleasure to be here today and talk about why exporters need websites. That's the first thing we're going to address today in this website localization webinar. So we've split it into 4 little groups, in four sections. So first we're going to talk about why we believe and why we have experience in saying that exporters need websites. And then we're going to talk about exactly what kind of websites and what we mean by website localization. What does that entail? And then we're going to give some examples, some concrete live examples of how exporters can use localized websites to grow their businesses overseas. And then Jared's going to take up the baton and talk more specifically about the Virginia Online Global Program and the tools available for the Virginian companies in particular. So getting started with it, let's just talk about why we feel and why we have experience and why our experience tells us that exporters really need good websites. Now, the first slide I wanted to show everybody is this one here. It's one of my all-time favorites. It basically is updated twice a year and just shows this sort of digital landscape of the world. So out of a population of 7.5 billion people, over 4 billion are on the web. Now, that's a huge amount, but the numbers are still staggering. Nearly 250 million new users came on stream in 2017. So this is still a very fast-moving, fast-growing, evolving moment. So if all these people have internet access, most of it also is driven, by the way, by mobile phones. It's interesting, 2/3 of the world's population have a mobile phone. And more than half of those mobile phones are smartphones and can access the internet. In other words, more than half of the people in the world on mobile phones can access the internet anytime, anywhere they want. So if you think that your day in Virginia is hectic and overstressed, full of the internet, everybody else's is too. Whether you're in Jakarta, Mumbai, Hong Kong, wherever you are, you've got the internet and you are using the internet. And I think that's the first message I wanted to say. And the second message, I guess, really related to that is one of the key uses of the internet is, in fact, social media use. And companies are definitely on this and using social media to reach out to their prospects. So that's one of the key things that people use websites for, obviously, is the online social media and online marketing. Now, I'm sure you've all heard U.S. commercial services say things like, well, 95% of consumer demand is outside the U.S. That's the kind of thing we're looking at here on the internet as well. 95% of internet users, 95% of social media users outside the US. So exporters have this amazing tool called websites and the internet that they can now connect to their end clients and prospects with. This webinar is not really going to talk about social media very much, but I did just want to sort of highlight this one app that I'm sure you're all familiar with. And if in fact, the point I want to emphasize about Facebook is that, in fact, the U.S. is almost, by the end of this year, the USA will not be its largest market. 85% of Facebook users are outside the USA. And I think at the end of this year, one of the biggest markets is actually going to be Mexico and parts of South America and India. So again, Facebook and social media is an amazing way of using the internet for an exporter. And when we talk about localization, remember this fact: Facebook is available in over 100 different languages. So in that sense, Facebook is localizing for all its individual markets. I guess the only other thing that's worth really thinking about in the back of your mind, if the power of this monopoly is not yet clear, if you combine Facebook with all the things that it owns, like WhatsApp and Instagram, that's over 4 billion people that it's reaching. And many of these people are daily users. So that's enough about social media. And I think the main point I want to say is social media is localized and can be used for export too. Now, this slide here really just sums up for me part of the business environment that you are faced with today. In the past, it was very much a bilateral or binomial relationship. It was you, the company, with your customer, or you, your company, and your supplier, or your partner, and so on. And there wasn't that much interaction that could be traced in between customers. Today's environment is significantly different. And the diagram on your right is I think, a good little sketch of it. It's really, the world has moved to a very, very online place where anybody can communicate with anybody else, and they do, which means that it is customer-centric rather than company-centric. And you have to somehow, as a company, you have to somehow jump onto those lines, those interconnecting relationships between your customers, between your partners, between your suppliers, competitors, or whatever, and to own some of that little space. And for us, that sort of sums up where you can, how you can use localized websites and online marketing, really to try and direct some of those arrows and make sure that you have a say in what those arrows are talking about and doing and saying about you. That's called your digital footprint, if you like. And our view is that exporters benefit from owning their global digital footprint. So just summing that up, in our view, exporters need websites because the world is online. So that means that their clients, your prospects, your future employees, your suppliers, everybody is online as well. And that you can find them, interact with them, connect with them online. Localized websites are the most cost-effective and efficient means to grow your brand and your sales internationally. They provide almost like an in-market partner, an in-market office for an exporter. So particularly strong and particularly valid for small and medium-sized companies. Localized websites allow SMEs to punch above their weight. SMEs don't always have the resources necessary to open an office in all of their markets. And then localized websites allow them to have a virtual office which is open 24/7, 365 days of the year. So a very cost-effective and efficient way of doing it. So let's talk now about what it means to be a localized website. What are we talking about? What is a localized website? Before we get into the absolute details of it, I wanted to give you an example of what one would look like. This is a company from a US company. They supply high-tech products to airline companies, essentially. And they first started saying, well, we know one of our top markets is China. We know that. We have some in-market agents, and they're pretty good, but we have very high-tech products, and these agents are not exactly engineers. So let's we think they can do better than they're doing now. We'll give them some help. We'll build them a little Chinese website. So IBT came along, built a localized website, and we'll talk about exactly what that means in a moment. So we built ASG, a local Chinese embedded good website, just a small one, and then involved the agent, the distributor, who was absolutely overjoyed and immediately took this website to their key targets and their prospects and said, look, ASG, you will finally understand seriously what the company does because it's in really good Chinese. 2, you've got case studies, you've got real explanation, you've got real data sheets on this website, so you can really go through it in depth and answer all the questions. And 3, you know that ASG really cares about the Chinese market because they actually invested enough to actually put out a seriously good Chinese website. So they care about you. And that was very important for the Chinese prospects. And this meant that within a very short time, I'm talking about months, like 3 months or something, they were able to land one of their top accounts and their top deals ever in China. And the Chinese distributor said absolutely clearly, it's because of the website. Thank you very much. So now they're rolling it out to 2 other markets, Japan and Brazil. And they now have, we built for them a Brazilian website and a Japanese website. Again, fully localized. And I've written here option A, to market expansion. And that's something that we'll come up to later when we talk about the Virginia online program. This is an option A choice. But I wanted to show you first what what a localized website looks like. And many of our clients go for localized websites, in fact, when they have distributors or in-market partners. Not all, but many. And since when looking at the registrants on this webinar, I saw that many of you look to me to be working via distributors. I thought I would highlight this and give you just a summary also of, for us, what it means to have a localized website if you're going for distributors and agents. It allows you to link everything together in one place in their local language. So it's allowing your distributor to have a seriously strong, modern, innovative tool that he can then go out and sell your product to. It also means you control your brand, which is getting really important. Your brand is no longer stuck on someone else's website somewhere, perhaps even in conjunction or next door to a main competitor. So having your own website means owning your own space and your digital footprint and being in control of it and being able, therefore, to help your distributors in a way that you want your brand to be well represented. So what do we mean by localized websites then? The best way that I have to explain it is to talk about search engines. Search engines like Google, for example, or in China it's Baidu. Search engines organize the web, the internet. They organize and rank it, but they are completely client-focused, just like that earlier diagram we had about client-focused world of the internet. That means that they take the point of view of the person searching, not the person who wants to be found. So you, the person who wants to be found, have to make sure that Google likes you. Now, Google isn't just one Google. There are over 190 different Googles in the world because Google France is different from Google Spain. Not just it's in French or it's in Spanish, but it's also different. It's taken it from a French perspective, from where the person in Paris is sitting. I'm sitting in the UK. My search is going to be very different from your search located in Virginia. So the first thing to know is that search engines, not just Google, but Baidu, Yandex, the others, are all localized. In other words, they're taking the point of view of the person searching. Even if that's in English, they will prioritize where that person is sitting, how he's looking, what is he what's closest to him, and so on. So that if you have a Virginian website and you want to target Mexico, it's not really enough to stick a few Spanish pages on your Virginian hosted website. It might get you some Spanish traction, some Mexican traction, but it's not going to get you a real footprint, digital footprint, into the Mexican market. And that's something that's on your same continent. If you're targeting Japan, you really need to have a Japanese, localized, hosted in Japan website. The next slide here shows you a little bit what are the key ways that people search in different search engines and ways people search in every market across the world. So for the majority of the world, Google has this enormous market share, a 75% market share in the world. That's over 90% throughout Europe, for example. But there's a couple of big places that Google doesn't have really any traction. The two big exceptions, Russia, where it's Yandex, and Baidu in China, which has about a 76% market share. The other point to note is that there are many, many, many places where they don't have a search engine function, they have a social media function. And this is something we're seeing increasing. Social media is actually competing against search engines for looks. But that gets on into more social media marketing. And if you have an interest in that, Jared and I are very happy to help you talk about that on a different webinar or a different time. I want to show you an example, though, of what my screen looks like compared to Jared's screen. Jared, sitting in Richmond, he Googled loose ball bearing. And I Googled google.co.uk, sitting in London, Googled loose ball bearings. So, okay, this is one of the most generic, we were sitting together saying, what is an incredibly generic manufacturing product? What is something that a manufacturer uses? Well, he uses ball bearings. So let's put that in our search. And let's see what happens. Who gets what? So if you're a ball bearing company, you really have to know that if you want to be found in the UK, you do not have a Virginia-based website. So that's just trying to give you an example, a sort of physical example of what we mean when we talk about that search engines are focused, are centric on the searcher, on the client. Here is a list of the main attributes that we attribute to a localized website. I've listed them. There's sort of like 10 that we would say have boxes to be ticked in order to be a local website. Obviously, there are things like regulatory requirements, and obviously there are things like translation, but that's one of 10. You have to register the domain name. You have to have it mobile enabled. You have to have it hosted locally. The correct content management system that can handle multilingual websites, and so on. So there's several different aspects. It's not just about translation. Translation is just one of 10, as I said. The regulatory requirements is actually something that we're seeing increasingly. There's some big moments coming this year in Europe, but I think also in the next 12 months you'll see spread throughout other markets. This is going to be an increasingly important one. I mean, large companies are already doing this. Large companies, particularly ones that have been created in the last few years, the last decades, use the web right from the start, right from the say go, to really push their international presence. So, for example, Apple, they have over 132 websites, all for Apple. That's just for Apple. It's not for iPad or iPhone. It's just Apple has over 132 websites, all localized. That's all in different languages, in the different norms, different regulatory environments, hosted in different places, all so that me sitting here in the UK will be the first person they find. I will find Apple right away. Uber, same thing. Airbnb, same thing. And this gets back to the use of the internet for driving your brand and your lead generation. But it also means these are big companies. It also means small and mid-sized companies can use these same tools. These are now within the reach, particularly with programs like Virginia Online Global, are within reach of the small and mid-sized companies. And we strongly believe that digitally literate small and mid-sized companies have this strong advantage for their exports and for their internationalization. It really allows them to punch above their weight, to maximize the returns of their export initiatives. Going to trade shows, going to finding distributors, investing in your international distributors, all are made easier and more optimal with localized websites. Now let's talk about how exporters use localized websites. Let's give you some examples. And before we do that, I just want to say it's really important to set out your objectives and your strategies. Every website should have objectives and strategy and be part of it. And the fun thing about the web and using digital tools is that you can change those strategies fairly easily and fairly quickly as you go, so that you can have, for example, at one point you say, right, we're doing a trade show in 2 months' time. Let's push that aspect forward on our website to generate more leads for footfall for our booth. Or we need to find some new distributors. Let's put a find distributor page up on that website. Again, to push more on that objective onto the website, so that your website acts like an aircraft carrier, and you can put out other things, specific objectives, specific things that you need to have at various times. And that's one of the best things about websites in that sense. If you have a good website in the local market, you can really use it for these various different objectives and things. So here's some examples. This is a company, a US company, who really, they supply to large OEMs, and they supply to sort of huge companies and order givers. They need to make sure that their quality is absolutely spot on, and that they have a fantastic service record. So when they were looking around at their prospect market, they knew that they were losing business to competitors in certain markets. And so they decided, right, we're going to go for this. We're going to have an online e-commerce platform. And so they said, right, the main market we want to target right now to start off with is Mexico. So we built them an e-commerce solution in Mexico, which allows them to reach directly into that market and just allows them to have built the same quality and the same reputation built on quality, on service, providing for their big OEM companies. And again, allowed them to really reach into that market, to be seen as a local supplier, a supplier that's totally credible and trustworthy in that local market. They serve to many different sectors. They have multiple verticals with a lot of stock keeping units. So it was a challenge to get them all and keep them all there on that e-commerce platform. But the Mexican website is really proving to them to be a strong incentive to push for other markets now, given the success that's going on there. Another example I just wanted to bring out here, this is an example of using social media once you have a website, to use some social media in terms of lead generation and brand awareness. Now, this is a company, again, a US company. They have a big trade show called Dirt Bike, which is the largest dirt bike trade show in the world, apparently in the UK. They decided to launch a competition in order to build brand awareness and lead generation. So we designed this competition for them and hosting this on their website. And it's really pushing traffic to their website and letting local people know in the UK to come to the stand at the trade show. So again, a really great way of brand awareness and lead generation campaigns once you have the local website. In this case, it was a UK website. The third example I wanted to show is, again, a US company. This is very much a company that works via distributors. And again, a company that has, it's B2B, also B to government, so B2G. But they serve many verticals as well, everything from processed food to florists to school products to local government. They have a lot of different verticals, which means they could have several distributors in each market. One of their big challenges is to find good distributors in all these markets. So one of the key objectives for their localized website was to have was for that website to generate distributor leads. The other objective was to make sure that their distributors were well served all at the same time, could access all the same prices, no matter which vertical they were in, and all had equal access to marketing resources. So again, the localized website served as a central platform for this multi-distributor route to market that they had. And that's proved very successful. They started on a 2-option program with just 2 markets, the UK and Germany, and they have since really pushed across the world. They're now in Singapore, Korea, UAE, Australia, Spain, everywhere, and rolling out more because it's proved to them to be a very, very successful format for managing and finding distributors and generating leads that they then pass on to their distributors. And their testimonial that we have on our website is pretty clear, with the CEO saying, you know, our international sales are growing at twice the rate of our domestic sales, and it's driven by the websites. That's clear. So that's sort of the main thing I want to talk about before handing over to Jared to talk specifically about the Virginia Online Global Program. Jared, can I turn to you?
Yeah, thanks, Susanna. What I'm going to first discuss today is the economic diversity of Virginia, and after that I'll introduce the Virginia Online Global Program that we have developed here at IBT Online. As you can see on the slide, Virginia companies are good at exporting. Over 7,600 Virginia companies do business outside of the US, and Virginia products and services reach virtually every country in the world. What's important to note is that 85% of the Virginia exporters are small to medium-sized companies. And these exporting companies are very reflective of the diverse economy in Virginia and represent industries from agricultural to raw materials to high-tech products. The Online Global Program, which you'll see in the next slide, is a summary that has been designed for small to medium-sized Virginia exporters and is applicable to both service companies and manufacturing firms. The Virginia Online Global Program this year is based on similar successful programs that have been developed in other states. So while this program is new to Virginia, it has a trusted and proven track record within other states. The core objective of this program is to provide Virginia exporters with an online footprint in both international markets that is both manageable and scalable as the business grows in those international markets. This program has been designed to provide Virginia exporters with IBT's trusted expertise in building international websites, multilingual websites, global social media platforms, as well as developing and executing an international online marketing strategy. We've developed two options for the Virginia Online Global Program, Option A and Option B, and I'll start getting into the details of both of those options now. So Option A is a two-market expansion program, and this program allows for a company to establish a localized online presence in any two markets that they would like. Sometimes companies think that this program has to be in two markets with the same language. However, this is not the case. This program can be implemented into very different markets with very different languages, such as Mexico and China. Once the two markets have been selected, IBT Online takes care of the rest. Our in-house systems allow for the entire web build and development to be very clear and transparent. And Virginia companies will have access at all times to see the progress that is being made towards the internationalization of the website. IBT does a number of things. First, we assist in securing the appropriate and relevant international domain names. And we then take the company's content and prepare it for the respective country search engines. Content is translated and proofread by various experts before it is deployed. And the Option A program is a perfect program for a Virginia company that is looking to have a digital footprint in some target export markets. Before the website is made live, though, we do train our clients on the management functionalities of the website, as well as the reporting and analytical dashboard that we have built out. So the price for Option A, the two-market expansion program, is $12K, and this includes two fully functioning international websites that have been built and optimized for the chosen export markets. So moving into Option B has been developed for companies that need a more expansive digital footprint. This program can include added functionality, such as e-commerce capabilities or private and secure portals that can be accessed by distributors or customers. Companies that are looking for an Option B program are typically also interested in building out an active social media strategy, as this is part of the Option B package. After building the localized online presence, our attention then turned towards engaging the local targeted audience through an active social media strategy. I can't stress enough the importance of developing an international online marketing strategy in order to drive traffic to the website. This is a real sweet spot for us at IBT Online, and we work really closely with all of our clients to execute an online marketing strategy exceptionally well. While there really isn't time today to go through all of the social media and online marketing options within this webinar, I'd be happy to review them with anyone interested. Option A usually takes about 3 months from start to finish, and Option B typically takes about 4 months, even for some of the more complex websites that we have developed. So in order to put both of these options, Option A and Option B, into context, I just want to briefly introduce a Virginia company that walked down this road. The Global Center for Automotive Performance Simulation, also called GCAPs, is in Alton, Virginia, and is a graduate of the VDP's Valet program. GCAPs provides advanced tire research and vehicle simulation for virtual vehicle and tire designs. When GCAPs came to us, they had a need and goal to enhance their international credibility and connect with customers in the Indian market. We built them a localized online presence and developed an online marketing strategy that allowed them to leverage their online presence and develop business opportunities in India. For instance, GCAPs used their online presence to support and leverage their attendance at local trade shows. and GCAPs doubled the amount of leads generated at local trade shows after they developed their localized online presence in India. GCAPs has found such success with us in building a localized online presence in the Indian market that they are now going to build one for the Japanese and Korean markets. Frank, who's the director, the executive director of GCAPs, has said that IBT Online has local websites that are essential for us to move forward globally. So just to briefly wrap up my comments, I'd like to say that IBT believes that a global digital footprint is a necessary tool for business in the 21st century. And frankly, being seen 24/7 in markets around the world is only going to become more critical for business as they compete on the global stage. We have helped many of our clients leverage their localized online presence to increase their international sales and build their brand and business globally. I'm based here in Richmond, and I'm happy to visit with any of the companies participating in today's webinar. The following slides will have my contact information. And I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Susanna.
Thank you very much, Jared. And just to sort of repeat again, you know, if anyone wants to hook up with us, the easiest person to get a hold of probably is right in your state in Virginia. Just give Jared a call, his telephone number there on the screen. And I don't know, John, if you've been getting any questions, if we have any spare time.
Hey, back to me. Thank you so much, Susanna, Paul, Jared. Thank you all very much indeed for that presentation. I have to say, I learned a lot, and I'm very appreciative there. And there are questions. I'm going to cherry pick. I've picked 5, and I'm going to ask, first of all, Paul. Paul, if you're still with us, and I do hope that you are, there's a question here, which is it's why has the VEDP decided to highlight online tools for exporters? And what importance do you place on digital footprint? I like that question. Paul, are you there?
I am here, and I appreciate you giving me such an easy question.
You wait for the next one.
For those of us in the U.S., there's a lot of news now about Amazon choosing its next headquarters. It's called HQ2. It's going to be a $5 billion investment in 50,000 jobs. And in fact, Northern Virginia has made the short list as a potential home for the next Amazon headquarters. But I bring that up to say that Amazon, as we all know, has changed how people do business nowadays, and how people buy things from the internet and from online providers. That's the B2C, business to consumer model. That is migrating over to the B2B e-commerce platform. There's a recent study that was brought to my attention by Forrester Research that estimates that the cross-border, this is across international borders, B2B e-commerce will exceed 1.2 trillion with a T by 2021. And that's huge. You can't describe how big that is. So, you know, I've been around, as was mentioned in the introduction, in this business way too long, over 30 years. And I remember when we first started working with Virginia companies to help them export, we said, well, you got to go to this international trade show. You got to go to the Hanover Messe. You got to go to Medica. And it's all about getting companies to display their products at a industrial trade fair. Those ways to market are still there. They're still valid. But for a company who is not considering an e-commerce platform, a localized website, an international website, they're going to be left by the wayside. And we know, so the reason why, to answer your question, John, the reason why VDP is paying attention to this is because we have to. That's how commerce is going to move over the next 3 or 4 years. So I'll pause there and see if there's any follow-on questions to that. But it's very important for us. Frankly, it would make our lives easier if each of the companies that we worked with had some degree of international websites that we could build off of to help them increase their international sales. So it's I would say the wave of the future, but I guess maybe the future is here.
Paul, thank you for that reply. And I didn't know about Amazon. Congratulations. I look forward to learning more. And thank you for that reply. Absolutely, that sort of lines up. Actually, Jared, I'm going to field this one to you. So, Jared, if you're ready, how do you feel about this one? Are there additional or ongoing costs for the website build in the to market expansion option that you explained there? I think somebody wants to know about costs on top of the 12K.
Yeah, that's a good question. So for the to market expansion program, there are no additional costs. Within this program, you get 2 websites that are fully translated and optimized for whichever 2 target export markets you're looking at. We do, however, recommend that you develop an online strategy, and this is something that we can help you build out as you get more ingrained in the to market expansion program. But to answer your question, there are no additional ongoing costs.
Okay, thank you very much. And so, Hess, I hope that covers a bit of the question that you asked there. We do know we'll get back to you with more. There are more questions. Another one, Jared, which is directly relevant to what you were presenting. Who owns the websites? So, IBT Online, we build them and host them. Who owns them? It's all about ownership.
Yeah, that's a good question again. So while in some markets we may have to assist our clients with purchasing their domain names, as it's very difficult because the domain names have to be secured from local addresses, ultimately we don't own the websites. All of the websites are owned by our clients. So we do assist the clients in securing and purchasing and hosting the websites locally, but ultimately the company will own their website.
Got it. Thank you very much indeed. And sorry, I couldn't see that screen. So it was Devon, and Devon, do know that we'll get back to you with more. I've got a few more questions before we have to wrap up. And I thank you very much indeed for submitting these questions. Please keep them coming, and do know that we'll get back to you. Susanna, I'm going to point this one to you, and this is a good one. Which markets should I go for first? There you go. A Virginia company. Dawn actually is saying, where do I go first?
Yeah, well, the world's your oyster. We have typically our clients choose one of 2 routes. Either they'll go for the countries where they're strongest, and they'll say we've got a really good in-market partner here, and it's working really well. We think we can double up. We can get an extra whatever percent more sales in that market if we added some resources like a local website, so that we're doing well. We want to cement that position, get in more market share. It's a very fast return on investment for us. That's one way we see it. So one route is just to say which markets are our strongest markets. That'll be the fastest return on investment. And there's where we can gain more market share fastest and quickest. The alternative is where we see clients coming to us and saying, we really need to be in that market. We might be a little bit behind as well, and we really need to hurry up and get in that market, and we need to find a good market partner, and we need to learn more about the market and generate some brand awareness. And that's when we see them also saying, so the fastest way to do that is through a localized website. So typically our clients are either saying it's our strongest market or it's our weakest market. That's typically what we see in terms of the markets to go for first.
Susanna, thank you for that. And I think we're going to squeeze one last question in. And again, it's actually interesting because it comes back down to money. It's what is the best way to measure the return on investment on localized websites? And these are the good questions. Thank you very much for asking that. We're very pleased. Nigel, when we get questions like that, we know we're talking about engagement. We know the cost. What about the return?
Absolutely, and any website, just like any tool within a company, has to be evaluated, measured, and reviewed regularly. It's hard to give one size fits all for return on investment for a website because it'll depend upon the type of website. For example, if it's e-commerce enabled or not. But all websites from their very creation have to have an objective. And then with that objective, whether that's generating leads or direct e-commerce sales or brand awareness or whatever, that's the objective of the website. You say, okay, I'll put a monetary value on that objective. I then look at it, review it very regularly. I mean, certainly monthly. And the wonderful thing about the websites and about the internet is that if something's not working, you can tweak it, change it really easily, and then see how it works better. And so improvement can be done very quickly and in a very sort of dynamic way. So return on investment is basically setting out the objective, monetizing it, and seeing how many, and seeing the analysis of that. And definitely all websites should have a monetized objective to it.
Susanna, thank you very much indeed. And I think with that, we really have to close out now. I want to take this opportunity to thank you. Thank you very much indeed to Paul. Thank you for giving us that big macro vision and that view of Virginia, that view of the VEDP, and indeed your vision of the place of online in today's world of international commerce, where we're seeking to help Virginian exporters. Susanna, thank you very much indeed for the presentation and the information. And jumping across to Jared, again, thank you very much indeed for the presentation of the Virginia Online Global Program. Options A, 12K, option B, well, it's what else is adapted to what you will require Virginia exporters to help you go internationally. You have the contact details of Jared in front of you. Online Business Development Manager, email at jg@ibt.onl, and there's indeed Jared's phone number. So please don't hesitate if you require any further information. I hope that you've enjoyed the webinar. I hope that you found the webinar useful and that there are lots of takeaways to help you be successful internationally. And as the VEDP and IBT Online work together to help you increase your sales overseas and your volume of international business year after year. We thank you very much indeed. Please give us I would say about 10 seconds of your time, as there is a survey that is about to appear on your screen, and we would welcome your feedback to help us do better in the future. And do know that on Friday, you will receive the slide deck that'll arrive in your email box. So again, Susanna, Paul, Jared, thank you very much indeed. And now let's all go and get Virginia Online Global, and let's go global with website localization and international marketing. Thank you very much indeed, and have a great day.